What is the most ifed up thing someone close has confessed to you? Before we start with the first story, please hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Number 20. A former coworker hooked up with a random guy and got pregnant with twins. Several months in, she reached out to the guy, and after they chatted more, he mentioned being mildly autistic. Her response was to start buying every pill and drug she could off the street to try to miscarry the twins, who were pretty far along, because she refused to have autistic children. What ended up happening, though, is it didn't work, and she permanently f***ed those kids for life. They were born underdeveloped and have a ton of medical issues. No clue why she decided to tell us that. I can't imagine how their dad felt. Number 19. My ex used to spike his friends' drinks with ecstasy, claiming, "I just want them to be happy and have fun." Number 18. A few years ago, someone slipped speed, amphetamines, into my dad's drink when they were out together as friends. My dad, who was already struggling with his mental health after his divorce, was extremely unstable for at least a month after. That, coupled with the betrayal of his friend who did that, made him volatile. I would receive tens of missed calls every night from him, and nonsensical text messages for weeks after. He eventually got help and realized that the drug, just the one instance, my dad drinks but never touches drugs, had sent him spiraling. Everyone was terrified for him for weeks. It's such a disgusting thing to do. Number 17. Putting light bulbs up his weird conversation. Still don't understand why. If he rubs his feet on the carpet, can he make them light up? Number 16. A former South African police officer claimed they used to take suspects up in helicopters or planes over the sea and threatened to push them out if they didn't confess. Then push them out anyway. Number 15. Back in grade 4, a classmate confessed to hating her best friend to the point of wishing her downfall. She explained to me that she always hated people she was close with. It wasn't about jealousy. She just hated people once she knew them. We were 10, and her confession messed with my head for a long time. On the outside, she and that best friend had been close since young and did everything together. I started doubting if my friends were really my friends. Like I could never fathom the depth of human emotional complexity. Number 14. I once went to a BBQ hosted by parents, we will call them Tim and Carol, of one of my son's classmates. They were in grade 3 at the time. It was a no-kid BBQ, a get-together for all the parents to meet and get to know each other. I had already known the hosting couple casually from the school for the last 2 years. We had been friendly and chatty, but not friends as such. As the night wore on, more and more folks got drunker and rowdier. I'm not much of a drinker, so had sat on a chair on the patio watching the fun. Tim sat next to me, fairly drunk. I started to say what a nice person I was and what a pity I was single. I began to brace myself for a drunken proposal. But boy, was I wrong as to where this conversation went. Tim said to me I had always treated him and Carol kindly, and that he wished he had a friend like me. I was feeling uncomfortable and was looking for an excuse to leave when out of nowhere he said he had a confession to make. I was now getting up and looking to leave. He stopped me and said that he had to tell me a secret. When he was 19, he had murdered his stepfather after he had hit his mom one too many times. He went into a few specifics of what he did with the body, and for the last 16 years, everyone thought that the stepfather had run away. No one suspected that he had murdered him. I just sat there. What the hell do you say to that? Did some digging, and indeed the stepfather had disappeared one day in the middle of the night, leaving every belonging behind. Number 13. Had an infamy for a boss who was also a sadomasochist, and one night she got drunk and told me she actively seeks out websites with real gang rape and snuff videos and gets orgasms to them harder than any sex she's ever had. She also told me that when she was 14 to 15 she had a boyfriend who was in his late 20s and a deadbeat dad who forced her to do many things, including that she did not want to do. But instead of being someone who hates anything related to that, she enjoys being beaten and strangled during sex because that's how she deals with the trauma. Number 12. My former boss and close friend at the time admitted to having an ongoing sexual relationship with his adopted daughter. They adopted her at age 14, and he contends that nothing sexual happened before she turned 18, as if that makes it much better. But that timeline never added up to me. I'm pretty sure it started when she was 16 to 17. The adopted girl took the brunt of the blame, got kicked out of the house, while she was still 18, I believe, and he and his wife are still married, living in the same house. We're no longer friends. To respond to the girl getting the blame, the wife accused the girl of seducing her husband. The wife might have been more of a piece of shit than him. To conclude, I eventually left the company. I could not trust or respect him after this. I've had several run-ins with his wife over the years, ranging from her disdain towards me to flat out accusing me of ruining his company and their family. I ended up moving around and up in the industry we were in, and now making twice as I was back then. I saw the girl once, several years ago, but didn't get a chance to talk to her. I hope Lori is doing well. Number 11. When I was a kid, my uncle had 2 dogs, which his wife disliked. Eventually, one of their sons developed a mild allergy to dogs, and they agreed that the dogs would go. She was supposed to advertise to find a new home for them. At a family gathering, while the women were all in the kitchen, she told us, with laughter, that was too much trouble. She'd actually taken the dogs to the pound and had lied to him that she'd found a home for them. She seemed to think she'd pulled off some feat of cleverness. She looked very proud of herself. Nobody else really said anything. Number 10. After being sexually harassed by my best friend's stepdad, he brushed his face against my breasts while grabbing a beer by the side of the chair I was sitting on, and he told me that if my now boyfriend can't sexually please me to give him a call. I was 16, he was 46. Number 9. When I was in college, I had a relationship with a student who lived in the same house as me. She had formerly been in a relationship with another guy who also lived in the same house. A lot of people knew that he had accidentally killed his best friend in a hunting accident some years before. He was exonerated after the investigators concluded that it was indeed an accident. She told me that when they were together, he told her that his best friend was not at all an accident. Number 8. I went to high school with a guy that was adopted from India when he was a teen, and he didn't know English, so he was put in 2 grades back. He was 20 as a senior and got expelled when this girl, who was known to be a compulsive liar, accused him of threatening her with a screwdriver in the wood shop and trying to rape her. People generally believed her because he was known to creep on 14-year-old freshmen. That same summer, I was at a concert and I happened to spot him in the crowd, so I felt compelled to ask what happened. I figured he would default to "it isn't true," since he didn't even know me. Nope, he said he held the screwdriver to her jugular and tried to get under her skirt, but she fought back. He thought it was bullshit that he was expelled when he didn't even rape her. He thought failing to successfully assault her negated the entire attempt. I was 15 then, and to this day, it's the most fucked up piece of honesty that anyone's ever dropped on me. Number 7. After my grandfather on my dad's side died, one of my cousins realized that my grandfather had been a long-time cheater. As long as I had known him, my grandfather had been involved with this woman who was his girlfriend. They had been together for as long as I could remember. In the 70s, my grandmother had died of an accidental overdose of insulin. She was type 1 diabetic. What had actually happened was that my grandfather had been cheating on her for years with this woman who was still his girlfriend. My grandmother knew and finally couldn't take it anymore and had killed herself. It definitely explained why my dad had such a poor relationship with his family. It was an open secret, but no one would acknowledge that what my granddad had done was wrong. Apparently, my grandmother was crazier than a house rat, and the family did not really like her. Still doesn't excuse it. Number 6. Tortured at a POW camp in Vietnam. The guy was insanely brilliant, like a mad scientist, and actually had a PhD, confirmed by HR, but was very disturbed and could only hold down a security guard overnight job. I was warned to never to cross him, and no matter what, I always was nice, even if he was being mean or petty about some issue. A few of the guys who had known him for years said he was a bomb-making expert in Vietnam and joked that one day one of the buildings might go up if someone pissed him off enough. Dark humor. Years later, I saw him and he apologized if he had ever done anything to offend me. He hadn't. He then started to say he had finally sought professional help to work through his issues, and then started to tell me all this crazy stuff he'd been through, which I don't even want to repeat. It was strange because he seemed almost relieved to be sharing all of that information, but I'm assuming he'd kept it inside for so long it was almost liberating to now have control over it and not be holding it inside. This, along with many other experiences, has made me so patient when dealing with people. You never know what they have been through. Number 5. My cousin told me about all the his grandmother and mother have done to him. His grandmother stole money from his father's death inheritance. Both his mother and grandmother told him that he should commit suicide, and his grandmother even said he should be dead just like his father. Number 4. In college, on a friend's co-ed camping trip, A guy tried to touch me while I was sleeping. I played possum and luckily, they kept him away. I told my girlfriends the next day and one girl told me it wasn't a big deal. Guys did that all the time when they had too much to drink. She knows this cause her cousin did that to her all the time growing up. Yeah, I felt more sorry for her than myself. Number 3. Last year, my brother told me he's been sexually attracted to me for 2 decades. We haven't talked since. Definitely wouldn't speak to him either. Number 2. Not extremely f***ed up, but a guy I used to work with went out drinking with work people on a Friday night. At the bar, he was laughing about how he was supposed to be at the hospital with his newborn baby and the mother. It was mind-boggling that someone would not only do this but tell people about it openly as they expected everyone else to be cool with it. Number 1. My mom recently told me that for the last few years that she and my dad were together, 30 years ago, she slept with a knife under her pillow because he kept an axe next to the bed and threatened to murder her in her sleep. Sadly, it's not even the most thing she's told me, but it's the one I can't get out of my head. And that's all the 20 best stories. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your similar experience in the comment below. See you in the next video.